Good morning and welcome to Express Your Truth, class number 5. Today the focus is on imagery, specifically on personification. Personification is when you ascribe human attributes to an inanimate object or to something that can't really have human attributes. For example, you might say, "The snowflake swooped from space and kissed my nose." Now that's an alliteration, but it's also a personification of a snowflake, because snowflakes cannot kiss, right? Or you might also say, "The marigolds mingled at midnight," which is also an alliteration and a personification, because marigolds can't mingle. In contrast, you could say, "The snowflake landed on my nose and made a little wet spot." Or you could say, "There were a bunch of marigolds over there that I could see at dusk." That conveys the same message, but it does it in a very different way, right? One connotes tone, playfulness, it connotes how you feel about the experience, and the other one is just conveying information. So again, poetry is a way of saying things in a way that evokes emotions, evokes a response, and uses language in a way that produces cadence. Poetry strikes a chord within us and evokes a response from us. When we learn a new poetic concept, it's often helpful for us to look at what famous poets have done in the past to kind of help show us that technique and help us to utilize it ourselves in our own personal craft. An example of this is from a poem Rendezvous from Edna St. Vincent Millay. "Your laughter pelts my skin with small delicious blows." We know that laughter does not possess the ability to pelt your skin, but it shows that she enjoyed his laughter, that made contact with her in a meaningful way. So attributing a human characteristic to laughter is more meaningful than just saying, "I liked it when you laughed." Another more extended personification example is called Housewife by Anne Sexton. "Some women marry houses. It's another kind of skin. It has a heart, a mouth, a liver, and bowel movements. The walls are permanent and pink. See how she sits on her knees all day, faithfully washing herself down. Men enter by force, drawn back like Jonah into their fleshy mothers. A woman is her mother. That's the main thing." In this poem, the house doesn't just get the housewife's feelings and emotions. He also gets her heart and her liver and her bowel movements. So it takes on all of the characteristics of the woman. The house and the woman achieve symbiosis, sort of. Yeah, they're the same organism. So there's also a sexual component to this poem, where the woman provides a house, but her body also becomes that house. The house becomes like an actual physical living being in which they both live, like Jonah lived inside the whale, but also her body becomes a physical living being in which he lives. So it talks about the cycle of life, that men come from a woman and are drawn back to a woman in a sexual way in a later time, and that the woman and the house are the same, right? The house that they live in together and her body take on those same attributes. Another excellent example of personification is this poem Crash by our resident friend and poet Enrique Argueta. Listen to the wonderful cadence that he uses as he ascribes feelings and emotions to having the same characteristics as when you drive a car.
At the times in my life I struggle with things I can't change and letting go of the past. It's like driving crazy without a seatbelt like a dumbass, but blessed with the clear view out the windshield glass, but focusing on the rear view, accelerating with my foot on the gas.
Now let's use these ideas to write our own poems today. Get out your poetry notebook and let's give it a shot. The first thing you need to do is to choose an object upon which to ascribe human thoughts, emotions, or feelings. Sometimes you might be inspired by an actual event that happens during your daytime. For example, while I was getting ready this morning, I reached to grab one of my lipsticks and it totally flipped out of my hand and fell on the floor in a sort of frustrating sort of way. Yes. So that somewhat mundane event inspired me to write this poem. Morning routine. In its glee to be my favorite, one lipstick shouted, "Pick me," and resolutely leapt from the counter, missing my hands and thudding on my foot. You can kind of just look around the room and find something that is just in your general vicinity. For example, the toaster, right? I recorded a somewhat romantic experience I had with my toaster this morning. Toaster, warming my buns with resolute adoration, browning ardently and with fervor. So your homework this week, as you're doing your 10 minutes of writing time in your journal every day, is to find things that you can ascribe human characteristics to in your environment, from your experiences. Give them human traits and human feelings. Writing personifications is fun. Yes, enjoy it. Enjoy your homework this week. And I hope you're able to come up with some really creative ways of communicating what's in your heart. Have a wonderful week, and hopefully we'll see you next week in poetry class number 6.